of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, Port of Belize prepares to take former UDP Minister Erwin Contreras to court over definitive agreement. Will a commission of inquiry divulge into definitive agreement? Fish kill in the New River, is it affecting tourism? And we take you to the Northern Corridor where we find out more about biodiversity. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Friday, June 9th, 2023.
And now, the hottest match of the evening. Get ready for action! Here they come. Amazing! They're unstoppable, unbeatable. They have him on the ropes. The heat rises to the top. 1, 2, and 3.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
Fire up the taste of Belize with the new Chiladas Crunchy Tortilla Taco Chips in its hot chili flavor. Fiery habanero brings the heat.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
From Snackers, done right, done here.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
Appreciating the reality of aging hospital infrastructure countrywide, while bearing in mind the increasing risk of hurricanes and floods, this UP administration has ramped up efforts to secure capital for new hospital infrastructure to be established in strategic locations. Earlier this year, we were most pleased to secure a $32 million grant from our partner, the Republic of China, Taiwan, to build a new hospital in San Pedro to serve Ambergski and Kikaka. $32 million. Again, the UDP, they claim they put it into their budget for about 3 years, boasting that they will build the San Pedro Hospital. It was never built. It is going to be built by the People's United Party government.
Good evening with your news. Also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. The definitive agreement has been largely discussed with all sectors of society having an opinion on whether it is binding and legal. Most ministers of government have had a say publicly on the document. The latest to make a comment is Minister Christopher Koyi. The media pressed on him as he exited the PGIA earlier today. Here is how that went.
There's an approach on the media as far as what is the value of this agreement, this definitive agreement. But at the substance of it, this is an agreement that was signed by the UDP administration under the Honorable former Minister Contreras.
When the Prime Minister said it was binding, things change. And in walking back the economic terms of the Contreras definitive agreement, is this PUP administration accepting that it's incumbent upon you to deal with Puerto Rico and Royal Caribbean?
I think that all depends on legal advice, the legal advice that is procured by the government. And it's only on the basis of that legal advice that the government acts.
Sir, it was stated that the Attorney General said the agreement was illegal.
I didn't understand what you said.
The opposition leader has claimed that the Attorney General advised the Prime Minister that this definitive agreement was illegal.
Don't you think it's in their interest to say that?
Sir. However, the fact that a cabinet confidential went to cabinet containing wholesale all the concessions and fiscal incentives in the Erwin Contreras definitive agreement says that you all supported it.
I think whatever cabinet confidential you have seen, you need to look at it more carefully because in the bill attached to that cabinet confidential has specific carve-outs that do not acknowledge the validity. So I think whatever is out there in the public, you really do need to read it more closely.
You have intimate knowledge, which means that you would have been the one behind taking it to cabinet, sir?
No, but I am present in cabinet.
But with the Attorney General leaving office in just about 3 weeks, who will give legal advice to GOB on the pressing matter? That's at the press, asked Minister Koyi.
Well, I think in terms of legal advice, you have the Attorney General's ministry that has its full complement of attorneys, and you also have external legal counsel. So there's a full gamut of persons, competent persons that can provide the continuing legal advice.
Sir, but for you, what's your personal position on the DEA? We've heard from other ministers saying that it is illegal and bad for Belize.
As far as the definitive agreement, I would rely entirely on the legal advice provided to the government.
While the public is not at all happy with the facts that have come out to light involving the definitive agreement, the Port of Belize is showing its discontent by preparing to take a former UDP Minister of Economic Development, Erwin Contreras, to court. Port of Belize Limited, PBL, has formally notified Contreras of its intent to pursue legal action. The notice of intent to sue states that PBL intends to sue on the basis of for misfeasance in public office arising from the defendant's deliberate, willful, unlawful, and clandestine signing of the definitive agreement between Portico Enterprises Limited and the Port of Magical Belize and the government of Belize dated 1st of October 2020, which resulted in financial losses to the claimant. But that is not all. There are some that are also demanding for a commission of inquiry to investigate Contreras and the signing of the definitive agreement. Contreras is said to be responsible for signing the 30-page document dated October 1st, 2020 on behalf of GOB. What is raising eyebrows is the fact that the document gives extreme concessions and fiscal incentives for the Port of Magical Belize.
People are calling for an inquiry, a commission of inquiry. Do you think there should be one in relation to Erwin Contreras?
As far as that would have to be a determination of cabinet once again.
Minister of Home Affairs Honorable Karim Musa today also joined in with other members of the Briceño cabinet to speak out on the matter of the definitive agreement. Presenting the agreement in the form to the cabinet, according to Minister Musa, was simply due diligence being carried out by GOB, who needs to review any decision taken by the previous government which carries legal consequences. And while many question GOB's move as it relates to this matter, Minister Musa says his government did the right thing by rejecting an agreement they do not believe in.
This is an agreement that went to cabinet, as many other cabinet papers that are discussed at cabinet, and it was shut down. So I don't understand how it is that we're now saying this is some sort of a pension scheme. You should ask Erwin Contreras and Dean Barrow and all those other ministers whether it was a pension plan for them who signed it. They are the ones who signed it. You see, we are left with their mess. We have to clean up their mess. And that is what we're doing. We have to review these documents because they have legal consequences and economic consequences for the country. We saw what happened to BTL. We saw what happened to BEL. How much hundreds of millions can you afford? I know Mr. Ashcroft can afford hundreds of millions more because he has an interest as well. But that's all good for him. But the Belizean people cannot afford that anymore. And so we have to consider these agreements that have legal consequences that are born out of the United Democratic Party government, not our government. You know and I know that no matter which way you go with this agreement, there will be lawsuits. Mr. Ashcroft has already commenced lawsuits. I'm sure, what's the company's name? Portico will start their lawsuit and State Bank will start their lawsuit. Everyone knows that is how this is going to go, but we have to consider it because at the end of the day, a former government official signed a document that has legal consequences. If we do not consider that agreement, then we would not be doing our duty as the new government.
Oftentimes, the word biodiversity is widely and generally used in relation to climate change, the environment, and habitats, among other subjects. In Belize, it is a topic that is center stage for the government of Belize, and that is why yesterday the media was invited to a tour in northern Belize. The tour is expected to bring about awareness on the importance of building biodiversity while at the same time beating plastic pollution. Our team was engaged in the tour and filed the following report.
Biodiversity and pollution go hand in hand when you think about it. As it relates to biodiversity, it is easy for a country like Belize, with a long history of protecting our natural resources, to celebrate. In fact, there is a network of more than 110 protected areas countrywide, keeping 61% of our forested lands intact. Biodiversity is no different, as it is abundant in Belize. In northern Belize, the Northern Corridor and the Corozal Bay Wildlife Sanctuary provides preservation of life on land and in water. But through the years, we have become comfortable in interrupting biodiversity, and engaging in plastic pollution is like a norm now. To curb the situation, organizations must engage in educational campaigns, which is why the media was invited by the National Biodiversity Office to tour several areas of the Northern Corridor. The aim is for us to spread the word on the importance of building biodiversity for sustainability and why it matters to say no to plastic pollution, which in reality contributes vastly to greenhouse gas emissions according to the World Wildlife Fund.
We feel that one of the things that is missing in trying to get that greater support from the wider population of Belize is information, empowering them with information. And it's really hard to bring all the Belizeans to experience some of these things. So I think that one of the better channels of communication is using the media, empowering people through the media.
We only became co-managers of Corozal Bay in 2012. And when we became co-managers, we found these fishermen here. They were already operating and doing this kind of fishing as part of their livelihoods, right? So that compromise that we have is to ensure that, you know, we get the buy-in from the people, and to ensure that while we protect and meet the needs of the protected area in terms of biodiversity protection and so forth, that we can also ensure that the livelihoods of the people that depend on the resources are also being respected to some extent. No? So you have to consider this from a period of time, right? Since 2012, when we began. There, you know, the fishermen, you can see Mr. Eliseo right there. We weren't two friends, because they had the perspective that we are here to get them out of the protected area, right? That was their mentality, that we are here, that you know, because it's a protected area, we will get them out of the site, that we will prevent them from doing what they have been doing for generations, right? So this was a work in progress. We started working with them, we started engaging with them, we started ensuring that they understand the importance of the protected area and the importance of the resource for their livelihood, because ultimately, depending on what they do as fishermen, is what will ensure their livelihood in the long term. We are at the point right now where we have signed an agreement with the fishermen. Well, actually, the fishermen with the government of Belize for access to the reserve, right? So while they're fishermen and while they have permits and licenses for being a fisherman, they also have to have a permit from the Sustainable Fisheries Ministry to have access to the reserve, right? But that access comes with the conditions that I have mentioned, in compromise with us and with them, that there are things like, for example, a no new trap policy, meaning that there's no new trap being allowed in the protected area, that any of these traps can only be transitioned from one generation to another generation within the same family, but they cannot sell their site to a different fisherman, right? Because a different fisherman wouldn't be considered a traditional fisherman. There are things that are seasonal, for example. They have to meet a season, mid-March to mid-November, I think it is. And they have to remove these traps from the protected area completely, that they have to respect the regulations in terms of the protected species like tarpons, bonefish, permits, and these things, that they also have to contribute towards ensuring that we have biodiversity protection and in terms of ensuring a sustainable fishery into the future by as much as possible releasing the juvenile and the baby fishes that we have.
This is because in Belize, our economy is built on the foundation of robust biodiversity, from agriculture to tourism. Our existence as a people is dependent on healthy and vibrant ecosystems because these resources provide us with food, water, clothing, and even the air that we breathe. Although these resources are important to our livelihood, they are under extreme pressure yearly.
We're understanding some of the threats, the pressures, and some of the things that people do sometimes unknowingly that would, impact our biodiversity. And one of the things, again, just to re-highlight what the minister said, it's not just about protecting biodiversity for protecting sake, but really because there is an interconnectedness with people and our natural resources, our natural assets. So it's trying to understand, what our actions have in terms of effect to our natural resources. As I started very earlier this morning, I mentioned that we celebrated the International Day of Biodiversity, and recently the World Environment Day again, which is focusing on reducing single-use plastics. So a lot of these things basically comes from sometimes not understanding what our actions are. We eat food and we throw away the wrappers.
Our addiction to ignorance translates to the destruction of the environment, which then impacts our health, ecosystems, and even contributes to climate change. Our food system is also in jeopardy, and that is why there are laws that even govern fishing in Belize.
These fishermen, while they have been here traditionally for generations and generations, we have a good working relationship with them to try and improve the kind of extractive use that they're doing to ensure that we can have some sort of sustainability in the fishery that is being done within Corozal Bay.
This is a Sanctuary 1 category, which should be a no-take. But when you look at it on the scale of things, living right near the Sarteneja village, you know that there are things that they will need. And so we are now looking at the possibility of renaming that Wildlife Sanctuary 1 to Wildlife Sanctuary 2, so that they can have the affordability of getting in other sources of income, including tourism. I think Belize is so special to have this natural asset, and so what we ask is that we utilize it to the maximum because it is there for us to have and to enjoy, but also to assist in the protection because the government can't do it. We'll be doing the policies and passing the legislation, but we depend largely on the population, the people to have the education, to have the knowledge and appreciate especially what we have so that they can also help in conservation. One of the things that we miss many times is that we're looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and we look at all of them and many times we forget goal number 17, which is that of partnership and collaboration.
The message of proper fishing is one that all must adhere to as it would then mean sustainability for fishermen in the area. Presently, there are only 16 families who have a license to do beach trap fishing in Belize, with only 11 families actively engaged in this type of fishing.
For me, this because I know I can dive there. Only here.
The fact that you had to, the fact that you had to throw back some, how is that for you? Do you consider that a loss? Is it?
No, because if I throw the smalls, that will grow and more fish, and then my children's they will. Yes, I sell fish in the market, but the two guys that sell there, they sell big fish. So I know I don't tell nothing to them because they got pretty fish, and I know if somebody is fishing, if I see that they are taking smalls, I will talk with them. About 2 times I talk with some guys, and they throw the fish. If somebody is fishing, if I see that they are taking smalls, I will talk with them. About 2 times I talk with some guys, and they throw the fish. Yeah.
In a general message, what would you tell people who do illegal fishing and who catch illegal fish? ¿Qué sería su mensaje para las personas que pescan pescados que están fuera de season y también pescados que son ilegales pescar también?
I could tell them to please don't do that because if they catch the small ones in the future or yeah, we will not have that.
And this goes for fish, conch, lobster.
Yes. If I see somebody catching lobster, smalls or conchs, we'll tell them to don't do that.
So, with everything that we have learned, we can safely say that to increase biodiversity and end plastic pollution, education is premier. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
The media was also toured east of Sartaneja to an area called Cayo Falso, which are 2 tiny mangrove islands that serve as habitat for frigate birds and manatees. We are about to head into the summer months, which means continued hot and dry weather conditions. Now, when the heat is at its peak here in Orange Walk, residents have come accustomed to see some deterioration in the New River. Over the last couple weeks, reports began surfacing about small fish kills around the river. Most recent reports are that the river is also changing color, which usually is a sign of real trouble within the depths of the New River. Every year, this phenomenon causes a major concern among environmentalists and Orange-Kenyans alike, who are worried that there could be a repeat of 2019 when the New River experienced a major deterioration to a point that it had become lifeless. In 2019, experts determined the cause of the river's demise was primarily due to the lack of rain that year and industrial dumping in the area. Residents would remember that on that occasion, residents along the riverbank were focused to endure the foul stench of an unhealthy river for several weeks. In speaking with long-time tour guide here in the north, Antonio Novello, today, we asked him about the situation this year and how it can affect tourism in the area. While this year is not as bad as it could be, Novella says we must persist with efforts to one day restore our river.
Well, about that fish kill, is nothing surprising. It's more than 5 decades from I was in elementary school back in the 60s. So it's nothing surprising. We do not want to point fingers to who. We know who it is, and we're happy that sometimes it's less, sometimes it's terrible. That school classes has to be closed holiday for the kids because of the stench, the smell. And 2 or 3 times the water flows back. You know the law, the gravity downstream, but this time it went all the way back to almost shipyard. That was no good. Tourists smell that. So something so far we can't avoid or stop. Hopefully in the future it could stop.
Coming up next, pollution, how it does affect our natural habitat. Stay tuned.
If you're lucky, no matter what life hands you, you can always count on your closest friends to be there.
Oh, thank you. My purse was exhausted.
We are all blissfully unaware when our lives are about to change.
Life is full of surprises.
I'm ready to lose my virginity.
Excuse me?
I got the list.
What list? There's a whole brouhaha at school about this MILF list.
For real?
Our lunchtime fodder is not usually this lowbrow, I swear.
Really? Who have you been eating with?
It's a big step up for Che and me.
I've been having exit out of grief sex. It's just sex.
Through all the chance that you've been out there, men have feelings too.
Life's too short not to try something new. And just like that, I realized some things are better left in the past. But maybe not everything.
I'm most pleased to report that the nation that we have been able to secure roughly $90 million for the construction of a new 150-bed modern national referral tertiary care hospital in Belize. Given the vulnerability of KHMH to hurricanes and floods, the strategic placement of this hospital in Babapan represents an important part of our climate resiliency building strategy in the provision of health care.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Did you know that 4% of the world's annual petroleum production is diverted to making plastic, and another 4% gets burned in the refining process, and it is destroying planet Earth? It adds to the mainland plastic pollution that is already exuberant. Though ships empty their garbage into the sea, a collaborative response is needed to maximize saving our seas. In Belize, international companies have long wanted to begin a deep ocean drilling, but Belize is not up for it and is not ready for it either, says Honorable Orlando Habet, Minister of Sustainable Development.
From the standpoint of contributing to the environment, to the ecosystem, very important. What is more difficult for us, I think, is anything that is beyond our territorial waters, maybe going even beyond national jurisdiction, where maybe we don't have the capacity for doing the monitoring, but we possibly can do it through cooperation with other countries, to do it sort of within the region. For example, we are now committed to looking at these areas, and you have to look at things like fishing, or illegal fishing out there, these dragnet fishing, the scraping the seafloor for fish. But you also have to look at pollution, because some boats might be coming from countries far away with different type of garbage and pollution that can be dumped into the sea. But a new thing I also know is that because we know that we are going into new technology, new resources for energy, so you have solar panels, you have solar batteries, and so some of the best minerals are on the seabed. So there's a large move now for deep sea mining, which we don't have the capability to do the monitoring. So these are things that we have to put together, and if we can't do it as a country on our own, then we have to look at the resources that are within the region so that we can cooperate and work together.
So in an era when you have droughts,
Are manatees dying out and at the verge of extinction? The mammals used to roam the waters of Belize in numbers, and in 2023 you are lucky to see one. And that is the bare truth also for monkeys, who belong to the primate group of mammals. In our media tour yesterday in northern Belize, the media was invited to Wild the Tracks, who dedicates its full time to caring, protecting, curing, and loving animals. Elmer Cornejo has a full wrap-up of what Wild the Tracks does and how important it is for people to learn that these animals play an important role in making our biodiversity strong and futuristic for years to come. Here is that report.
The Antillean manatee is a beauty of the warm waters of the Caribbean Sea, and more exactly the waters of Belize. On the other hand, monkeys used to thrive in numbers in the forests and jungles of Belize. But do they still call the jewel home? We found out more about both animals when we visited Wild Tracks in northern Belize. The organization works arduously to protect and conserve endangered species and biodiversity, with two of its existing projects being primates and manatees.
We actually started activities back in 1990 and registered in 1996 with quite a broad environmental conservation footprint, including protect area management, management planning, and wildlife rehabilitation. My focus is on the wildlife rehabilitation and release. Okay. The wildlife rehabilitation is something I've been doing since I was a child back in the UK. Zoe and I moved to Belize back in 1987, so 36 years ago I guess now. Focused on protected area work, but we'd still be doing ad hoc wildlife rehabilitation locally as needed. Then when Woody, Belize's second orphan manatee, was rescued, there was a need for him to be rehabilitated in country, and there was no facility in country to do it. Because I had more wildlife rehabilitation experience than anyone else, and because we live by the edge of Shipstone Lagoons, we have an abundant source of good clean water, we had a well-respected volunteer program. So we had some of the ingredients needed to rehabilitate a manatee. So we were asked whether we would take on Woody as a one-off to try and rehabilitate him, save him, get him back to the wild. When he was successfully rehabilitated, we were then asked to become the National Manatee Rehabilitation Centre, which we eventually agreed to do. And it's built up since then. We've expanded the program, we've learned a lot, we've further developed the processes to ensure that we can have that 100% post-release survivorship with the manatees. The primate program was a little bit more planned. It had been operated by someone previously for several years. She had health problems and had to go back up to the States. So the program was transferred as a working program to Wild Tracks. What we did then was to do a strengths weaknesses analysis, what was good, where there was room for improvement, to try and ensure we could get close to the results that we have with the manatees. And we've been quite successful in that, so we have a 95% post-release survivorship in the howler monkeys we've rehabilitated, which is more than double what anyone else is getting in the whole of Latin America. So again, it's a process that works.
We begin this tour with the endangered Antillean manatee that is facing a growing threat from boat strikes in Belize, according to a new study that raises concerns about the survival of what had been considered a relatively healthy population. This study is available online at Inter-Research Science Publisher. Belize hosts a population of less than 1,000 manatees. With the growth of tourism in recent decades, however, Belize has seen a substantial increase in boat traffic, making boat strikes an increasingly important cause of manatee deaths and injuries.
As a manatee rehabilitation centre, we're responsible to receive any injured or orphaned manatees from around the country, try and save them if they can be saved, rehabilitate them, get them